What if I told you that on one random Wednesday afternoon, the President of the United States slapped a tax on every single product coming into the country? From your iPhone to your toothpaste, everything got hit. Not just that, China got a 54% tariff, the European Union, 20%, Taiwan, 32%. Even close allies like the UK got caught in the crossfire. This wasn't a policy tweak, it was a global economic earthquake. And the man behind it all? Donald Trump, in a day he called Liberation Day. But is it liberation or isolation? Let's break it down. What is Liberation Day? On April 2nd, 2025, former president, and now presidential candidate again, Donald Trump held a surprise press conference at the White House. He declared that America had been cheated for decades, that global trade rules were rigged against the US, and to fix it, he introduced a sweeping set of tariffs unlike anything we've seen before. Here's what he announced: a universal 10% tariff on all imports into the United States, a 34% additional tariff on Chinese imports on top of the existing 20%. That's 54% total, 32% on Taiwan, 20% on the EU, 10% on the UK. Even Israel, which just days earlier signed a free trade pledge with the US, was hit with a 17% tariff. Trump called this reciprocity. But what does that actually mean? The logic behind Trump's tariffs. Trump's argument is simple, but controversial. He says, if other countries charge tariffs on US goods, then we should charge them the same. He called it a tariff for a tariff, an eye for an eye. According to Trump, countries like China, the EU, and India maintain unfair trade barriers, and he wanted to level the playing field. But here's where it gets complicated. Trump didn't just look at official tariffs. He also included non-tariff barriers like currency manipulation, subsidies, value-added tax, which most countries use, and is not actually discriminatory. So when he claimed that the EU had a 39% effective tariff on American goods, experts raised eyebrows. Because according to the World Trade Organization, the EU's actual average tariff on US goods is less than 2%. So how did Trump's team calculate these inflated numbers? We still don't know. And that confusion triggered chaos. The market panicked. Almost immediately after the announcement, markets tumbled. The S&P 500 fell 3% in one day, its sharpest single-day drop since the 2022 inflation crisis. The Dow and Nasdaq followed suit. The US dollar weakened as investors braced for economic retaliation. Why does this matter? Because the top 10% of Americans now account for nearly half of all consumer spending, and their spending habits are closely tied to stock market performance. So when the market crashes, spending drops. That slows the economy. Meanwhile, tariffs raise the price of imported goods, which fuels inflation. So the US is now at risk of entering a stagflation loop. Prices go up, growth slows down, and the Federal Reserve is trapped, needing to cut interest rates to boost growth, but raise rates to fight inflation. Global retaliation. But the pain won't stop at America's borders, because now other countries are responding. Inflection: China announced new tariffs on American soybeans, semiconductors, and EVs. The European Union is preparing countermeasures targeting US cars and tech. Canada, Japan, and South Korea are also reviewing options. Trade wars have a way of escalating fast. And the scary part? Many economists say these policies won't bring manufacturing back. Instead, they'll just make everything more expensive and provoke diplomatic rifts. Even Republican-leaning business groups are concerned. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce called the plan economic self-harm. The strangeness of the tariffs. Here's something odd. Some countries known for high trade barriers like Brazil got only the minimum 10% tariff. Meanwhile, Singapore, a free trade haven, also got 10%. Even Russia, despite sanctions and rising tensions, received a partial exemption. And Israel? Hit with 17% just days after publicly agreeing to eliminate tariffs with the US. There's no clear logic here, which is why economists are calling the plan not just aggressive, but erratic. And that's what's making businesses across the globe panic. They're not just worried about tariffs, they're worried about unpredictability. Where do we go from here? So what now? Trump's campaign says this is just phase one, and even higher tariffs could come if countries don't comply. His supporters argue this will finally bring manufacturing and jobs back to the US. His critics say it's a return to 1930s-style protectionism, the kind that led to the Great Depression. In reality, we're in uncharted territory. Global trade is a delicate web, and pulling on one string, like tariffs, could unravel everything. So what do you think? Trump's Liberation Day, the dawn of a stronger America, or the start of a global trade war? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.